Welcome back, guys. Doing another video that is a direct response to a question that somebody asked in the comments. So a couple of things I wanted to address. First of all, you probably notice, and by the time this video goes online, it's probably been a month since I started doing this. But going to start cutting back a little bit on videos. Instead of doing once a week, going to probably move to once every other week. Just the burnout factor, I think. I don't want to stop making videos. I want to continue making good content, and I don't want to stress about making sure I have good stuff to talk about, which leads kind of directly to the next part, which is if you comment on something that is topic worthy, if it's video worthy, I'll do my best to do a video on it, especially if it's something that hasn't been covered before. And today's topic is somebody asked a question that said, I referred to knowing freight lanes, and this was in the video about switching divisions, and the general idea was you may have learned the freight lanes in the refrigerated division, and they're going to be vastly different in the tanker division, or vice versa. If you start off in tanker, want to switch to reefer. And the question basically was, if you don't turn down loads, what difference does it make if you know the freight lanes or not? And the simple answer is, I have never turned down a load. And I guess the simple answer is there's I define turning down a load maybe a little bit differently than not doing everything that is asked of me. And for that, what you have to understand is kind of how Prime works. So if you don't understand how Prime works, if you're not a current Prime driver, Prime sends a trip to you. It will show up on the Qualcomm. It will show up on your phone if you have the app. We've talked about those things before. And generally it's comprised of a minimum of 5 messages. The first message kind of tells you, and it's different for each division. I'm quite sure there's a little bit more detail in reefer and in flatbed, especially if you're getting different products. In tanker, the first message that we get on a load basically tells us we're getting 48,000 pounds of soybean oil. And generally it's one piece. As an example, you may get that message would say you're getting 10,000 pieces of apples, 5,000 pieces of bananas, whatever it is. If you're doing refrigerated, you might be getting cookie dough and you're getting whatever. So that's a little bit different with that first message. The second message is going to be your pickup point, the 01 location. The 90 location is the next message. That's your drop-off point. The 01 and the 90 will also have your appointment date and time. You'll also get, if you are not a company driver, if you're a lease operator, you will get an estimated revenue message. So you'll have the information in the first 3 messages that I referenced. And again, another difference, tanker never has an 02 and 03 and 04 location, and what those would be is if you have a multi-stop trip. In tanker, everything is a single drop. There's one pickup, one drop off. There are, I can probably count on one hand, 1 or 2 places I think that I have gone where I have unloaded half the product into one tank, and the rest of the tank, the rest of the trailer into a second tank. One place that we do that, you simply move the hose from here to here. There was one place in Pennsylvania where we physically had to drive from one tank, maybe a block, to a second building. But like I said, of all the places that I've done this in about 2.5 years, you're going to have one pickup, one drop off. The final message, and this is the point, and I know I've probably taken 5 minutes to get to the point of this, is do you commit to picking up this load? Yes or no, and you have to reply to that message. On the Qualcomm, the reply is a simple Y or an N, and on your phone, there's a green button for yes, there's a red button that says no, I do not commit to picking up this load. And this is where I tell you, I have never hit no or typed in N on the Qualcomm that I do not commit to picking up this particular load. Now, when I say I have never, that's what I mean when I say I have never turned down a load. That's specifically what I'm referring to. And that to me is, here's what we've asked you to do, and you are refusing to do it. You do not want this particular load. Now, that I say that, are there times that I have been sent a trip and I haven't done that load? Yes, there are. And the difference is the communication with your fleet manager, with your dispatcher. The times that I have been sent a trip and I haven't done those loads, and for me it's a little bit different than for an over-the-road driver, but I will give you one particular example where knowing a freight lane, even as a dedicated driver, played a factor in a conversation that I had with a weekend dispatcher. But if I get something, 99% of the time, if there's an issue with me accomplishing that load, it has to do with my hours of service. I can't, or being able to get to a pickup or drop off on time. So you pick up the phone and you make a call and you say, I don't have the hours, I have to stop a half an hour before I get to this pickup, which means that I would have to take a 10-hour break, get to the pickup, then I'm going to be a day late to dropping off or delivering. A lot of times with what we're doing, our fleet managers, our dispatchers know when they send you something that you can't accomplish it on time, and they're fine with that. And the reason for that is there are not enough drivers, there are not enough trucks to haul the freight that they're looking to haul. And while we strive for 100% on-time service, it's not always going to happen. So sometimes the freight just needs to get there. There are times when I'm sent a trip and they think, well, maybe there's a possibility that I'm a little bit further and their computer's lagging and maybe I'm closer, and that half an hour I can actually get there instead of not making it to the pickup, and at least I can have the pickup done, or I will know that better than the person sitting behind a desk. So that's why they send you that message saying kind of, hey, can you do this? And that's where having a conversation with your fleet manager, with your dispatcher, comes in. And I know I've talked about communication before. If you just look at that and say, I can't do that, I'm going to hit no. I can't do that, I'm going to send back a reply of N on your Qualcomm. That's where you get a reputation as a driver of someone who's not willing to work with Prime. If you make a phone call and you say, here's the reasons why, listen, I had to stop for fuel, I had to stop and grab some food, I had to stop at a Walmart. If I had known, I wouldn't have made a supply run at Walmart, and I'd be able to accomplish this trip. But at this point, unfortunately, I'm not able to help you out with this particular trip. So if you have someone else who's able to do it, why don't you give it to them? If you don't have someone, then I'll help you out. So that's where you can turn down a load when you're not actually turning down a load. As far as freight lanes, and this is a case of a weekend dispatcher. I've told you I do this dedicated account. I load probably 90% of the time out of Decatur, Indiana. The other 10% is split between Bellevue, Ohio, and occasionally running some over-the-road type stuff. On the weekend, I very, very rarely do anything that would be an over-the-road load. And part of that is the weekend dispatchers, they're given loads to cover if they have something that's left over that the fleet managers haven't taken care of. And in this particular case, I was at home and had a load fall through. Something was canceled, so I wasn't able to do what I was scheduled to do out of Decatur. And they asked me if I would like to drive to Louisville, which is about 5 hours south of here, Louisville, Kentucky, pick up a load in Louisville and go to Springfield, Missouri with that particular load. I found out how much it paid, and the problem, knowing the freight lanes in tanker, Louisville to Springfield. Once you get to Springfield, you have to drive pretty much all the way back to Chicago to pick up the next pickup. And then I could get a load that would head me back towards Decatur, Indiana, outside of Fort Wayne. Now again, I never was sent the trip, I never hit the no button, but knowing your freight lane allows you to say, for the dollar amount that you're asking me to deadhead to Louisville, and then likely deadhead from Springfield, Missouri to Chicago, that doesn't make financial sense to do so. And again, I can have that conversation with that weekend dispatcher and say, that doesn't make sense, I would rather not do that. If you could find someone else who was able to take care of that load for Prime, that would probably be more beneficial. So again, I want to make you understand what I'm talking about with turning down loads is turning down loads without communicating. Just blindly hitting no, I'm not doing this load. If you communicate, if the fleet manager or dispatcher that you are talking with understands, they likely see the reason why you cannot do a load, or it's not financially beneficial for you to do a load, that is not held against you. What fleet managers and dispatchers don't like is when they put together a plan, and that's what you have to understand, is the fleet managers are looking at a list of loads that have to be accomplished and a list of trucks that are available, and they neatly slot everything together. And if you call and you have a conversation and say, well, this isn't really going to work, then they can say, well, okay, if that doesn't work out, this can fit here, and I can swing this person over to this. That's a lot better conversation to have and makes the fleet manager's job that much easier. As opposed to, nope, not doing that. Then they all of a sudden have their plan blow up, and it gets very frustrating for the fleet manager. Now, you could make the argument, you may say, I don't really care how difficult life is for the fleet manager, that's not my problem. But what you have to remember is your fleet manager is your business partner. They're not your boss. But if they're not inclined to keep you happy, keep you running, and keep you making money, they are not going to make you money. They are not going to make money either. Because the way fleet managers work is they make a portion of the profit that you make as well, and they also lose money if you are losing money. So that keeping that relationship a happy one is important. So that's what I mean when I say knowing freight lanes. And again, it's a lot less important for me as far as doing a dedicated account, because I'm doing this recording at Prime's Decatur Terminal. I'm coming back here 90% of the time. But when I'm asked to go outside of that, I still need to know, is it beneficial to me to do that? And am I compensated enough to go outside of my usual area? So, and again, if you're going to turn something down, communication is what it boils down to. Hope you found this information useful. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk to you guys again in probably a couple of weeks. If you want to come to Prime, don't forget as well, click on the link right in the description. It'll take you to the application, And again, thanks for watching.